Hello, my name is Corinna Luyken, and I am an author and illustrator of picture books, primarily. I live in Washington State, in Olympia, Washington, but I grew up in California and Oregon. I actually grew up for many years in San Diego. I went to 2nd through 9th grade there, went to Marvin and Foster Elementary and Gompers Secondary. So I'm excited to be talking to you all today here from Washington and to be speaking to some of you down in San Diego. So I'm here to share a writing prompt, writing exercise with you all. But first I'm going to talk a little bit about bookmaking and read you a very quick story, and then I'll give you the writing prompt. The books that I make really are picture books for people of all ages. The first one I ever did is this one here called The Book of Mistakes. And it's about a drawing that starts off with a mistake and how that mistake is fixed, and there's another mistake, and it sort of goes from there. I also wrote and illustrated My Heart, which is the one I'm going to read in just a couple of minutes here. And this book, which is going to come out in the spring, called The Tree in Me, which is all about the ways in which we are connected to each other. I illustrate other people's words as well. This is a book called Adrian Simcox Does Not Have a Horse, which I illustrated. It's about a boy, Adrian, who says he has the most beautiful horse of anyone anywhere, and a girl, Chloe, who does not believe him. It's written by Marcy Campbell. And in the book, gradually as we read the book, we start to see things differently. And Chloe goes from not believing that Adrian has a horse at all to starting to see things a little differently. So it's a lot of fun to illustrate other people's words as well. This is a book that's coming out in just a week. It's written by Kate Hofler. It's called Nothing in Common. And it's about two kids who seem to have nothing in common, but they go on a journey, and I don't know, do you think it's possible not to have anything in common with someone? Is that a possible thing? Anyway, this is what I get to do. I get to play with pictures, I get to play with words, and especially when I'm working on my own books, I really, really love the magic that happens when words and pictures come together, and you can do something that you can't do with either one alone. But people often ask me, when I write, do the words come first, do the pictures come first? And it really depends on the book. It's different with different books. With My Heart, the words all came first. I wrote a poem, and then it was a poem that I thought I would like to find pictures to go with, and partly because I had a collection of rocks that I had been finding. In fact, I have a couple here to show you guys. Here I've got my bowl of heart rocks, and I've been finding these hearts on the beach and just in my life, and I was inspired by that partly to make this book. But now that I've made a few books, now that I have a number of books that are out in the world, I've started to notice that there are some themes that I come back to with my bookmaking. And one of the things I've noticed is I like to make books about things that that make people a little uncomfortable, or things that people don't always like to talk about. So mistakes, difficult emotions that we don't always talk about, like sadness and fear and loneliness, meanness, people not getting along, people misjudging each other, things like that. But when I stop and look at the books I'm making and the themes that I like to work with, and if I step back a little bit, I start to notice that there's something else they all have in common. And it's really that I love making books about perception and about the ways that we see the world. So the way we see ourselves, the way we see other people, the way we see our place in the world, and the way we see the world itself. These are all things that I think sometimes we can get a little stuck with looking at things in one way. And what you can do with storytelling, what you can do with poetry, what you can do with art is you can actually shift the way people see and the way people think. And that's something I love to play with, this perception. So this thing about perception and this thing about shifting perception is, to me, is one of the most powerful things that we can play with as artists, because when we change the way people see, we can also change the way that people think. And we have this possibility of it's like a direct line to people's hearts and to how we feel and our relationship with each other and in the world. And I really think that we can do something profound and powerful with words and with pictures and with art, with poetry and with stories, to affect the world that we live in. So I have a writing prompt for you guys, which is about how we see. But first I'm going to read this book, which is a really very short book because it's a poem. And it's called My Heart. And if you look carefully here, you can see the little heart that the girl is planting. These are the end papers, and again, so there are hidden hearts on every page of this book in the world, all around these kids. So, my heart is a window. My heart is a slide. My heart can be closed or opened up wide. Some days it's a puddle, some days it's a stain. Some days it is cloudy and heavy with rain. Some days it is tiny. But tiny can grow. And grow. And grow. There are days it's a fence between me and the world. Days it's a whisper that can barely be heard. There are days it is broken. But broken can mend, and a heart that is closed can still open again. My heart is a shadow, a light, and a guide. Closed or open. I get to decide. And here's the back end papers with the hearts that are starting to reach out and root and reach toward each other. So what I wanted to do today is give you an opportunity to write your own heart poem. And so I was thinking it'd be fun to start with this phrase, my heart is, and then you're gonna fill in the blank. You're gonna add something to it. So what you're gonna do is be specific. So you're gonna start with my heart is, and then you're gonna follow it up with a specific where or a what that describes this heart out in the world. For example, my heart is a microphone. And then you could say, that's out of batteries. Or my heart is a microphone turned up full volume. Your heart could be an empty parking lot. It could be like a crash test dummy. And then you can ask yourself, is it a crash test dummy that's being buckled up right before the ride? Is it a crash test dummy after the impact? Or is it one that's in a factory that's all wrapped up in plastic and like about to be shipped out? So the where and the what help us get a feeling for your heart and for what is going on there. Try to be specific and try not to overly explain, but just describe. Describe the where, describe the what, and try to surprise yourself. Try to come up with some examples from your life, from the world around you, that are not things that you normally would compare your heart to. You can do 5 or 6 and put them together. You could do more than that and choose your favorites. And if you string 5 or 6 of these together, you will have a poem. So the last thing that I wanted to say is that the reason why I thought this would be a fun and interesting exercise is that when we write about the heart is something that is at once deeply personal to each of us, our own experiences, the feelings we have within our hearts, but it's also universal. It's something that everybody can relate to. And I think this is true of all of the best writing. The best writing is always personal and specific, and it achieves something that is very universal through those specific particular details. Go out in the world around you, look around to see where you see hearts, think about what might be a good metaphor for the heart, and be specific. Describe the color, the texture, the place, the where, the what of it, and mostly have fun with this. And thanks for joining me today.